Rhyme is just such a strong pick, as I was trying to say last series when I was hoping that Aeon would pick it up. Rhyme works really good against all the melee heroes coming out of the jungle that we see so often now, and even if it ends up being not a melee jungler, Rhyme can still work against ranged heroes as long as you know how to play him really well. The Cruel comes out from Qlash. I think that's a smart pick just because it's one of the only melee junglers that can play against the Rhyme, because Cruel's dueling is just so incredibly strong because of his weakness stacks.
Can I just point out the fact that Rhyme has over a 75% win rate right now and a decent enough pick rate as well? Rhyme is doing pretty strong in competitive.
Yeah, and when you compare it to something like the Petal, who has an extremely similar pick rate, that's the only reason why I'm saying to compare them. Very similar pick rates on the two, but Petal has about a 59% win rate, somewhere around the 60% win rate area, and only about a 2 to 3 league average KDA. So those Rhyme pick, even though it's been just as much of a pocket pick as the Petal, has actually been performing a bit better. It's very surprising to see a team that's not Rogue picking it as their first pick. As Qlash, I mean, this is really just Dynasty challenging Qlash and saying, here you go, build a composition around the fact that we have a Rhyme.
I mean, it can also be flexed into Realm. I know it's a crazy idea, but Mowgli is a captain player that is very innovative and can flex his drafts if he needs to. But other than that, the Rhyme on Rickomizzo or Rickomizzo on Rhyme, we know how strong of a player this guy is, and we know how confident he is in also in his play. So picking it up first and then trying to build a comp around it could be a very effective strategy for Dynasty. And then Sky coming out in lane, this can go either way. It can either be a weapon power Sky with a CP Rhyme in the jungle, or it can be a CP Sky with a weapon power Rhyme in the jungle. So Dynasty have a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of room to play with.
I have to say, we saw weapon power Rhyme out of Mouse last week. I was not convinced even in the slightest. So I'm not a fan right now, based on the one game we've seen of it this season in competitive. I'm happy to be proven wrong, though, if that is what Dynasty runs with. What are we expecting to see out of Qlash for this final pick?
They need to have something that can hard carry. Obviously, the Celeste could be a very strong option for them. There's not really a lot of backline dive. Yes, the Sky can get there, but you can just body block the forward barrages from the Sky if it is going to be a Crystal Sky. Yeah, but Weapon Sky obviously has a little bit more ability to get onto a backline like that, but I fully expect this to be some sort of backline, staying away from the fight type of carry. But it's going to be a Vox, which isn't. It's sort of along those lines, but it's a much shorter range than what I was expecting for the final pick from Qlash.
I mean, at least it's a comfort pick, right?
Yeah, I mean, it also works really well against both Rhyme and Sky because it has so much mobility and it can dance against Sky skill shots and it can dance against or around Rhyme skill shots. So as a pick, especially if he builds Poison Shiv to counter the fortified health coming out of Rhyme, I like it, especially with Cruel. You can just play very aggressive and you can try to engage with the portals coming out of Lyra, and you can then use your sustain if you need it in the team fights. So overall, the composition from Qlash is very well rounded, but I do think Dynasty has a superior gameplay and superior team fighting as a team.
Okay, but we need to see Qlash being proactive coming on into this one. That's something that EU teams often struggle with. Do we think that Qlash has what it takes here?
I just don't know. From what we've seen, I don't think they do.
All right, well, Dynasty going to be the favorites coming on into this one. Let us know on Twitter who you think are the favorites using that hashtag Vainglory, and support your team online. Get all your mates involved as well. It's time to jump on into the last series of Europe for today. Let's pass it back over to Scoundrel and Dowsy.
This series has a lot of significance, Scoundrel. Qlash are sitting at the bottom of the leaderboard here in Europe with 0 points. They need to get something on the board. Dynasty, they're sitting, I believe, only a couple up with 4 points in 6th position, if my memory serves me correctly. So whoever wins this series is actually getting a decent amount of points for themselves in a very important part of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, a lot of these teams are unlikely to be contesting the likes of SA, but if you want to, especially for Dynasty, who are probably in the better position to do so, this is the kind of game that you need to win. This is the kind of series that you need to win. And the first pick, Rhyme, was a very interesting facet to this draft. Immediately, the Cruel gets locked, and Cruel always been classically pretty good against Rhyme. You may say, oh, but Cruel is melee. But actually, because of the weakness, I know, because of the... Because of the weakness stacks, Rhyme really does rely on his damage output for the majority to keep him sustaining. So by adding the weakness stacks to the board and the sustain that Qlash has against these kind of low mobility targets like Rhyme. Qlash has always been considered a pretty decent into Rhyme for that reason. So we'll have to see how this works out for Qlash because, you know, like the analyst desk said, Dynasty probably are just the better team. And Qlash have got to prove a lot of people wrong if they want to come away with the win in this series.
Your impersonation of a naysayer right there, Scoundrel, definitely tickled me, I have to say, especially considering your beautiful British way of pronouncing melee instead of melee. I think as the majority of
I don't think
the Western
it's not
world.
a British way. It's just an Scoundrel way.
It's just an Scoundrel way. It's something that we have to ourselves to enjoy. But yes,
I'm personally pronouncing it completely wrong, but unfortunately, I've just grown up saying that, so now can no longer not say that.
Well, here we go. Here we go. Agony runs into Rickamezza in the jungle and then runs away. Now he's going to continue running away with Hell's Devil as Dynasty will get priority over the Elder Treant. Will not be stolen with that sigil. It will go over to PT Lamb on this weapon power Sky, who I have to say is a hero that's kind of started to see a bit more priority in 2.8, and I love it. I just think it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, and actually it's always been considered pretty good into weapon power Vox as well. So they've actually come away with a bit of a trump here, have Dynasty Gaming, PT Lamb picking up this weapon power Sky. It's only because if you can lock onto the Vox, it's one of the carries that can actually keep up with Vox in terms of the movement speed that Sky gets from her locked on targets, and she can also Suri strike to make sure she positions correctly against him. So people have always considered the weapon power Sky pretty decent into Vox for that particular reason. We'll have to see how aggressive Qlash can be, though. You don't want to give away too much of the early game to Rhyme, especially when you've got that Cruel on your side.
He's got Agony looking to try and take down Rickamezza here. Oh, he's in a lot of trouble. He may just fall down. First blood. Who's it going to go to? The crew is healing up. Dodging out Winter Spires. Agony wanting to take down Rickamezza. The most hype level 1 fight you've ever seen. But here comes PT Lamb to try and change things around. Agony should go down in just a second. There it is. First blood will go over to Mowgli. I love the way that the health bars just went up and down so consistently. Hell's Devil tries to steal another Elder Treant, but he cannot. Merciless's not able to push the wave in deep enough, and so PT Lamb loses nothing.
Yeah, and a good rotation from PT Lamb. You can see Dynasty very keen to work as a unit, rotating around this Rhyme pick, knowing that it was probably pretty risky to do so. It's going to be hard, I think, in the late game for Rhyme to keep on his targets, though. You've got to get through the Bright Bulwark, which is a really good way of restricting movement. Merciless is one of the more mobile targets or mobile carries in the game, being on that box. Wondering how much prioritization Rickamezza puts into his boot upgrades, because I see a lot of Rhymes, especially against highly mobile compositions, really go pretty early on for at least travel boots, and then consider the journey boots as quickly after that.
It's Dynasty rotating down towards the shop at this 4:25 mark. Agony has been able to get his way in there and secure himself his items. Looking like it's going to be a breaking point as his first item. It's a little bit curious if he does commit to that, considering the fact that he is against a Rhyme who you kind of want to cut down the healing of. But I suppose Poison Shift does nothing against a fortified health stacker, and if Rickamezza isn't building Eve of Harvest as his first item, then Poison Ship wouldn't really do anything.
Yeah, no, you're not going to get... But the reason that the Poison Ship is good against Rhyme is because generally Eve of Harvest is a staple on his build. The Fortified Health means that he's actually just generating true health being behind that Fortified Health, and it's very hard to touch that because of the Fortified Health. That's where the Poison Ship actually comes into play against the Rhyme. And you're right, Poison Ship doesn't actually do a huge amount otherwise. So maybe they'll be considering it later on, considering they're seeing that Rickamezza seems to be prioritizing a Broken Myth as his first item, which is against the grain of the general Rhyme builds that have been popular when Rhyme has seen play. Most Rhymes tend to go for a Shatterglass first. But it feels like against the Cruel, you might be looking at longer fights. You might be looking at the fact that the weakness stacks are going to be diminishing your burst anyway. So by playing into Broken Myth first, you're actually going to be doing better in the elongated fights against the Cruel.
Yeah, I know personally it's Leon's favorite pick. Rhyme's one of his like favorite heroes that he doesn't get to play very often, and he insists that Broken Myth first is the way to go. So I can certainly see the theory crafting in this game, especially we saw that first fight, the first blood, a very elongated fight that a Broken Myth would certainly come into great effect. PT Lamb, Sorrowblade has been finished. He's building towards some attack speed now. Curious to see what his build is. Kvalifar, when he played this a couple of weeks ago here in Europe, like mentioned, went a very aggressive build, I believe. Double Tornado Trigger with the Sorrowblade and a breaking point. It was very fun to watch.
Yeah, we'll have to see. He's also got Infusion in bow here, so we're expecting an early fight of some sort. Ricomez's finished up that Broken Myth now.
Yeah, from above and Valkyrie go out, but neither connect here from Dynasty. This opens up the realm of possibilities as a Hell's Heart stuns up Mowgli that the Fountain comes through just before. Mowgli may perish, he does. That's going to be a kill going over to Agony. Dynasty not able to connect their two CC ultimates and really just allows Qlash in.
Yeah, I mean, Qlash danced around the rhyme so well there. They played around the Death from Above, which was a little bit awkwardly placed. And they just managed to pick up the kill onto Mowgli, and a good start for these guys. A lot of sustain coming out, which has bends you to think that the Weapon Power Sky is likely going to have to pick up a Poison Shiv here, Dalsy. I would be surprised if Poison Shiv wasn't picked up in PT Lamb's build, simply because you're against a Lyra, you're against a Vox who's going to build a Poison Shiv, and well, I speak too soon. He's actually got a Lucky Strike in his inventory, so he might be going towards a more aggressive variant of the Vox build. But you're against a Cruel as well, with the innate sustain built into his kit. You would be probably pretty silly not to build a Poison Shiv in this particular game. I think if you're going to build it in any game in your entire life against a Lyra and a Cruel, seems pretty good, man, to actually pick that up in your build, as Vasilis has gone for the aggressive Tornado Trigger option.
Yeah, so if he pairs that with a second Tornado Trigger and then a Breaking Point, it would be very similar to Tricky's Vox build that has had a lot of success for Mouse. However, something that we haven't really talked about, but I guess is kind of just accepted at this point in competitive play, is that we do have double weapon power with this Cruel here and the Vox, and neither of them have a tension bow or any kind of armor shredding item at this point. Is a little bit peculiar, not quite the norm. Normally it's the Cruel picking up tension bow as a first item here. Looks like they want to fight. Team Qlash, have they bit off more than they can chew? Yes, they have! Mowgli comes down with a huge gauntlet and everyone's trapped in it. Agony cannot escape this Sky play, and that's going to be Hell's Devil escaping through a passageway, but oh my goodness, Dynasty able to just come on in here and clean up everything.
You feel like the Gauntlet was one of the major factors that were needed to add to this boiling pot of the Dynasty gaming roster. It provides that area of play where you can lock in and move around. You keep the Vox locked in, and limited and restricted as well. And obviously then that's an area of where Ricomeza has almost a playground for the Rhyme. You know, he can step in and know that those targets are either going to have to reflex block their way out, or they're going to be there for the taking. It also means that the Death from Above can be placed quite nicely within that field, and then suddenly reflex blocks become a little bit more of decision-making processes for the Qlash roster. Meza takes his back camp, shares them with PT Lab, has got that Poison Shiv, like you mentioned. Very, very, I think, obvious pickup for him, needed in the build, and it's worked out quite well in that last team fight.
Certainly has. Agony has the Aegis as well built up, knowing that he is going to be having to survive Rukumeza's damage output on this Rhyme. Rukumeza may not even go Eve of Harvest next. He could just go into the Halcyon Charges. He has that Void Battery purchased, and that would provide for him many movement speed options to get on in there. Cooldown reduction as well, not a bad shout, especially if a Poison Shiv was to come through. Or if no Poison Shiv has come through, you can go for the Eve and you just have the healing. So Ricomeza, many options as he walks in, but isn't able to steal the front Treant. My apologies. I am ill, actually, today. I haven't actually said that, but it is... I'm struggling, Scoundrel.
Don't worry, buddy. We've all been there. It's going to be the Crystal Sentry taken away here by Dynasty. They extend their lead now to around 4,000 gold. Breaking point picked up on PT Lam. A very sustained, focused build from him. Again, lends it to the way that Rikomeza is playing this Rhyme. You know, they are looking for the longer fights. Breaking point and Broken Myth staple parts of these two builds. Rikomeza, like we thought, gone towards travel boots pretty quickly, and also picking up a lot of defense in tow. Actually just working off this Broken Myth is his only defensive item for now. You imagine even Harvest won't be too far off the horizon. The rest of Qlash don't seem like they're even able to contend with Dynasty right now.
Payout collected.
I'm actually just amazed to see that Dynasty first picked a Rhyme, and Qlash went, okay, well, how do we deal with that? Cruel, pretty good into Rhyme. Vox has a lot of mobility, can dance around the Rhyme, and with a Poison Shift can do a lot of damage. Not that we've seen a Poison Shift come out. So obviously Qlash have considered, okay, we're against Rhyme. Let's build a composition that's good into Rhyme, and they have done so. But Dynasty are seemingly 4 steps ahead of them at this point. 4,500 gold in the lead. Haven't really felt contested since that kill happened onto Mowgli when the Hell's Heart was unlocked on Agony. And haven't quite seen Qlash feel confident yet to move forward and contest what Dynasty have been wanting to do.
Mistilla is now also picking up the Tyrant's monocle, so I mean they're looking for a very burst-heavy build, but look at the defensive prioritization from Dynasty here. The Gauntlet comes out.
Gauntlet does come out, a second one, there's an Echo, and that is Mercilli's dead outright, as Dynasty going to charge forward through the passageway and take down Hell's Devil as well. Good dodging coming out of PT Lam, manages to get around the Cruel to make sure he doesn't get stunned up, and this should be the ace coming through as he dives on forward. A single auto attack finds the kill, and the ace will come through for Dynasty.
Wow, early echo from Mowgli here. He has accelerated this captain's build path, by the way. How much gold has Mowgli got in his back pocket with the Fountain, the Crucible, the Tier 2 boots, and the Echo? Echo, a perfect complement to the way the Dynasty want to play. They're looking for a arena-focused style of gameplay, and the Gauntlet is a perfect setup for the arena. Like we said, they like to make space, an enclosed space on the map. So if they're not fighting in the jungle, Mowgli is creating jungle-like situations for them by having these double gauntlets in tow, and that means Sky is free to land good death from above, gets highly mobile. Rikomeza has, like we said, that almost like that playground, and Rhyme loves to have his targets constricted to a certain area, meaning it's a lot easier for him to land his roots, land his winter spires of the sort, and now Dynasty just able to pick off those aggressive moments. Going to go for another gold miner here. I love the fact, like I said, that they picked up a lot of armor already, especially Rikomeza and PT Lam, kind of shutting down Mercilli's build as it stands. Just by having this armor already, you're going to kind of limit the efficacy of a critical strike build. Critical strike builds like to snowball because you're going up against carries that are unlikely to want to prioritize armor. Well, Rikomeza and PT Lam have both picked up armor very early on here, and that limits that snowball potential of the critical strike build, and now Mercillis is likely going to have to get to 4 items before he's contending in terms of damage.
And that 4th item has to be a Bonesaw at this point. Double weapon power, no armor pierce on the side of Qlash. Mercillis just about escapes. There's going to be a silence going out on towards Mowgli. But at this point, not really contesting whatsoever, Dynasty. They haven't been able to yet. Here comes a Gauntlet, is going to lay down the challenge, but oh my goodness, Rikomeza gets deleted immediately. PT Lam dancing around, Mowgli has the Echo up, he's going to put the Gauntlet down and keeps PT Lam so safe. He may have lost his life, but PT Lam, can he get away is the question. Series strikes one way, Mercillis trying to move in. The forward barrage keeping the distance, and he's going to series strike away once more, but Hell's Devil follows up, and this should be the kill coming through, an ace! And Rikomeza just went down so quickly at Scoundrel. Maybe we can see in the replay as they start this Kraken.
Yeah, I think really what you saw there was Rikomeza. He kind of, I think generally Dynasty were a little bit over-aggressive in terms of their positioning. Rikomeza walked straight into Agony, who obviously once you build those weakness stacks so quickly, it's really going to start to put pressure on a Rhyme in these fights, and that's why Cruel's considered pretty good into a Rhyme. You know, you lock down his ability to generate fortified health by taking down his ability to deal damage, and therefore makes him a bit of an easier target. And Mercillis now, with this heavy aggressive build, even though there is the Atlas Pauldrons to burn through, you're still going to be dealing lots of damage against a Rhyme who's very stationary and low damage output without that sustain.
Well, it isn't going to be a Bonesaw, but it is going to be a fight breaking out. Death from above, Hell's Devil's dead. Merciless now has to try and escape PT Lamb. Look at the mobility, but Agony moves on in, trying to stop up. The weakness stacks onto PT Lamb. He dives away, and Agony shall fall where he stands in just a second as PT Lamb finishes the job. And Ace comes through for Dynasty here at Scoundrel. The Kraken finds a single turret. It is going to be Dynasty looking to make sure that it doesn't find another.
They should be able to take this down before it hits the next one. That was a good setup for Dynasty Gaming. They were able to pick off Hell's Devil very early on. And again, this is one of the strengths of the Weapon Power Sky. You can dive in with that Suri Strike to make sure that even if a target is taken low and escapes, you're able to finish them off before they can retreat, heal up, or sort of peel in and out of the fight. My one worry with the Dynasty Gaming roster is, despite that team fight win, we are looking at a fairly low damage output in general. You're only sitting on 2 items for the Rhyme, which obviously is fair enough. He's got quite high base damages, and with the Broken Myth, he's going to scale up. But I think I like what PT Lamb's doing here. Sold his Reflex block. I think he does need another weapon power damage item, Dalsy. It looks like he's going to go for a straight up Tornado Trigger. Really like this. I think it was needed.
All right, let's see how it does fare out here. And it is going to be, like you mentioned, that Tornado Trigger coming on out. Let's see. This next team fight could be very impactful, I believe, for both these teams. Both sitting fairly even, but there's no Kraken to be taken. So we'll really just spell out in plain letters which composition has hit a stronger point at this stage. And with only 2 damage items on Rukumeza, who's just stacking armor against Merciless and Agony.
I like that. I like that a lot. I was only adding that I like that, Dalsy. Don't worry.
That's okay.
You can
I like it as
continue
well.
your sentence.
The reason I like it at Scoundrel is because, once more, I will draw attention that there is no armor pierce on Qlash. Here we go, another fight, but does break out. Oh, PT Lamb, great usage of his Death from Above. Walks out of the gauntlet. Can he get out quick enough? Mowgli didn't echo it, the gauntlet. And now it's going to be Agony falling. Merciless will go down as well. They trade one apiece. But Hell's Devil's stuck with just Rukumeza and Mowgli, who I don't think they can chase the Lyra, so they turn to the Sentry instead and then delete it once more. 1 more life remaining at this 18-minute mark.
Yeah, wonderful use of the Death and Rev. Slightly less wonderful use of the Suri Strike, but nonetheless, still come out with a team fight win, because if you're not focusing PT Lamb, Rukumeza is going to start building stacks and dealing heavy damage. And also, I just wanted to note, right at the end there, you saw the difference between the damage that PT Lamb was putting out on Merciless now than he was previously. Some of his basic attacks started chunking through Merciless with the addition of this Tornado Trigger, which is why I think it was a really good pickup for him, because he felt like on a 1v1 basis, even with that metal jacket for PT Lamb, Merciless was still almost getting the upper hand in those situations. So this is kind of shutting Merciless down, says, okay, you have no armor. If I land a critical strike on you, it's going to hurt. And it gives PT Lamb the better 1v1 versus Merciless in these fights, which I think is really important, because you want to be able to use that Suri Strike to dive Merciless and try and take him out where you can.
If you were to be a Vainglory analyst at Scoundrel and analyze the build from Merciless to remove 1 item to be more effective, maybe we'll talk about it off stream, because currently a fight is breaking out. It is a Death from Above stunning Agony in his place. Dancing around the gauntlet walls is PT Lamb, and PT Lamb finds Merciless looking for Agony. He's going to go down. In fact, PT Lamb has no kills. It's his teammates picking them up. Now maybe he can find one for himself as Hell's Devil tries to escape. Shouldn't be able to. Great series strike, and there it is. 1 apiece to Dynasty, and Ace comes through, and the Kraken to be taken.
It should be a pretty easy Kraken pickup there. Rukumeza with a really good ultimate to keep himself fighting. He was very close to going down there. It almost looked like disaster, but the Valkyrie coming down, I think it hit every single member of Qlash, and that gave him a massive boon. A bit like the Celeste ultimate, when she's got Eve of Harvest, gives her a massive boon in HP regeneration. Rukumeza got a little bit back from that as well. And PT Lamb, like you said, is very nicely dancing around the edge of the gauntlet. That's kind of what Skye does. She's a dancer, and she almost just circles her target, attacking them, making it very difficult for them to keep up. So yeah, both really nicely played. Fight by Dynasty. They're going to be rewarded with the Kraken, and they're going to start their push towards the Qlash base.
Here we go. Rukumeza now moving on in, looking to build a final crystal power item. But it's very unlikely that ever gets finished. There is only 2 turrets separating Dynasty and a Game 1 win here. It is going to be them looking to push on forward. Agony trying to finish a poison ship, hasn't been able to just yet. Kraken taking a bit of damage from the scout traps placed and Mowgli kind of just allowing it to happen. Here we go, Kraken goes down, Gauntlet goes down, it's a death from above, stunning up Hell's Devil. Mowgli places the second one right on top of him, stunning him up. And this will allow the first Vein Crystal turret to go down. Now Dynasty have to be cautious. They've used 2 of their gauntlets here. Team fighting is risky and a huge silence comes out, but it's blocked up nonetheless. Dynasty looking to try and finish the game. Kraken is very low. PT Lamb trying to get onto the backline. Mowgli will very low. Rickameza and PT Lamb are able to take down Masilis, and now they just dance the Cruel and watch him run away from the team fight. The cowardly Cruel will not be able to finish the game and stop Dynasty from winning it. K1 goes over to Dynasty X Scoundrel.
Yeah, I think it was just really nicely played from Dynasty. I like the early prioritization of the broken mid for Rickameza. One of the major things that I think I want to point out is something you touched on. Literally no armor pierce picked up whatsoever for a double weapon power composition into 2 metal jackets, 2 Atlas pauldrons, lots of armor on